Anonymous NFC executives are taking shots at the 49ers. And I was just on KMBR. I didn't even know of this. I guess Mike Sando wrote an article up on The Athletic with these anonymous quotes. And one of them was that Mike Evans is not a good fit for Brock Purdy. And I almost spit out this coffee when they told me on KMBR that this is what the executive said. And you guys will hear it in the radio interview. I'll delve into it more. Mike Evans is the perfect fit for Brock Purdy. I mean, tall receiver, Purdy throws an accurate football. But we'll get into all that, including Brandon Aiyuk. They asked me about that as well. You know, the 49ers can probably even keep Brandon Aiyuk past September 1st. I'll probably explain that in a later video. But remember that option bonuses can vest into base salary. Just happened with Trent Williams. So chew on that for a little bit. Listen to my interview on KMBR.
Yeah, good morning. I don't think that's all that controversial in that we've been theorizing about why the 49ers have had it hasn't necessarily, Jed York the other day said, well, we ranked number 19 in injuries. It wasn't so bad, but it was more about who got hurt last year, right? They missed some of their star players, and that really hurt them. And so we've been theorizing as to why this has been happening to the 49ers more years than not recently. And I think that the hypothesis that makes the most sense is that they have invested in some players with injury histories. So I think that's been something that, has been talked about quite a bit. Now, I haven't read that article yet, so I'm going to have to go check it out. But probably because it comes from an anonymous executive, it sounds like an attack. And, what I will say is that Mike Evans played 11 straight seasons with 1,000 receiving yards. Only Jerry Rice has done that. So he's one of the most durable receivers to ever play this game. It wasn't until last year where he had multiple injuries and wasn't able to get to 1,000 yards. So the reason the 49ers were able to get him at a rate that could fit in their salary cap issues, though, was because he's not in the midst of that 11 straight year run. So you've got to play that value game a little bit, but you also have to hope that he can deliver one of those seasons that he did for 11 straight years with the Bucs, and you have to hope that last year was just an outlier.
Yeah, David Lombardi, the voice you hear, SF Standard, 49ers Writer. Not to make everything about this story, but it is sort of interesting stuff for fodder. One other exec did praise the deal, saying 1 year for $14 million is low risk, and you got a veteran, and I don't mind it for a 1 year rental. Another vet said they're going for it, man. That red zone production is going to go up. You have a backside X that can win one-on-one. So there's a couple guys praising it, and then here comes another negative one saying Evans runs 19 miles an hour. He's a back shoulder possession X, which has not been Brock Purdy's game, and he's not going to run in the middle of the field like Juwan Jennings did on those bang eights, skinny posts and daggers and deep ends, catching it on the go and being a run after catch guy. So your reaction to sort of the criticism that he's not a speed guy.
What does he mean it's not Brock Purdy's game? I mean, Brock Purdy's game is throwing to tall receivers, throwing downfield. He has the highest completion percentage on deep passes ever since he joined the league in 2022. For whatever reason, there's this narrative, probably because he isn't 6'5", that he doesn't throw downfield, but he's actually thrown downfield more accurately than anybody ever since he joined the league. I mean, the tape doesn't lie, the data doesn't lie. You go back to his career at Iowa State, and he was throwing to tight ends and throwing to big receivers. Juwan Jennings succeeded with Brock Purdy as much as he did because Brock was able to really feather the ball, and he throws pillows up there, right? He throws very, very catchable footballs, but he takes advantage of receivers' height. And that's why the numbers are as good as they are on these throws more than 20 yards downfield, because he's able to find that spot where only the receiver can get it. So, I mean, I haven't read the article yet, but when you read that, I have a coffee in my hand right now, almost spit it out.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Evans is the perfect Brock Purdy receiver. The question here is health. It is not fit. It is absolutely not fit. Mike Evans in a jump ball situation is obviously better than almost any corner in the league. So if he can stay healthy, Brock Purdy could put the football in a spot where only Mike can get it. And, speed, Kyle talks about what you need at the X outside. He said you either need deadly speed or you need big-time height and obviously route-running ability. If you have both, that's great. You're Julio Jones in his prime. Yeah, Mike might not be in his prime speed-wise, but that 6'5", 230-pound frame, combined with the physicality, the skill set that he has, it's going to draw the safety over toward his side. And as long as you can get the safety shading toward the X-wide receiver and you're taking away the best corner of the opposing defense, that opens up the run game and it opens up everything else Kyle's trying to do. So as far as fit goes, I think it's a perfect fit for Brock Purdy. It's a perfect fit for the 49ers offense. The question goes back to the first one. Is he going to be healthy for the 49ers? And if he is, health is wealth for the 49ers at that X position.
Yeah, and maybe that's why the executive wanted to keep these comments anonymous and not put his name to these takes. But we'll see how that wide receiver room looks this year with Mike Evans, with Christian Kirk, with Ricky Pearsall, and we're all assuming it's going to be a wide receiver room that does not include Brandon Aiyuk, but Jed York did have some comments earlier this week at the owner meetings about potentially bringing him back or at least trading him and having some value this offseason before the draft or after the draft. David, what can you tell us about the latest situation with Brandon Aiyuk after hearing from Jed York earlier this week?
Well, not just York, but Shanahan and Lynch, they're all following the same tune. I know that Jed probably a little bit more aggressive with he could still play for us. Basically what the 49ers are saying is we're not going to let go of this guy until we have to, which is smart business. I invoked the example of 2022 Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, first, let's outline the differences. Garoppolo was on good terms with the team. Brandon Aiyuk obviously is not because he just disappeared. But in 2022, there was a lot of outside pressure for the 49ers to just release Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, why would you keep him? He's just on a team with a big salary cap hit, and the 49ers said, well, there's no benefit to us just releasing him, and we can't trade him because he's coming off of a shoulder surgery. This is the most valuable position. He's played good football for us, so we're going to keep him because you never know what can happen in this fickle league. And ended up being one of the best decisions the 49ers had ever made. And I think for them it was a no-brainer. But from the outside, people were kind of surprised. They were keeping him through training camp. And what ended up happening is that Trey Lance got hurt. Obviously, the 49ers were able to keep Jimmy on a restructured deal. And then they had that bridge built between Lance and Brock Purdy, who came in to the surprise of almost everyone in Week 13, and he's now the franchise quarterback. So that all worked out for the 49ers. In the case of Brandon Aiyuk, the option bonus doesn't come due until September 1st. So we're still several months away from that scheduled payment. And, the 49ers won't even owe that to Brandon Aiyuk unless he actually shows up to the building. And so the whole theme of this has been the 49ers putting the ball into Ayuk's court, and he hasn't passed back yet. Why would they make life any easier for Brandon Aiyuk or for any other team that would scoop him up right away on the deal, probably close to the league minimum if they released him? They're just going to hold him as long as they possibly can because it's not affecting them right now. He's away from the building. And, once an inflection point comes, once checks do have to start coming to Brandon Aiyuk, then you could probably talk about the 49ers being forced to release him. But if a team wants to cut in line, get him into training camp, get him into their OTAs, the 49ers are saying you're going to have to pay for it.
Talking to David Lombardi of the SF Standard here. The Aiyuk situation's unbelievable. It's still going on. But the other, rumors make the, how do rumors get started? They're started by the jealous people, said the band. Myles Garrett. Some people out there are dreaming a dream where the 49ers trade for Myles Garrett. I don't know if you're one of those guys who thinks that's a possibility or if you have a reaction to that as a rumor.
Well, the Browns, it was interesting because last week they redid the deal to extend the trade window this year by pushing the option bonus back 6 months. And at the same time, they proposed a rules change that would allow you to trade draft picks up to 5 years in advance instead of the existing 3. But that rules proposal failed miserably at the owners' meetings. And, a lot of people looked at the conjunction of those two things, the restructure and the proposed rules change last year, as a sign, okay, maybe the Browns want to cash in here on Myles Garrett's prime and get years and years of first-round picks or big-time draft capital, in which case, I think Myles Garrett is a good enough player. We talk about Crosby, we talk about Trey Hendrickson. Myles Garrett's at a whole nother level from those guys. I think any smart team would sit down and say, hey, if this guy's going to be available, how many first-round picks is he worth to us? And In many cases, you would say, let's do it. But the proposal didn't pass, and I think that the Browns may not be all that serious about trading Myles Garrett this year, so it's probably going to be a non-starter. The way that they were talking at the owners' meetings was like, hell no, we're not going to trade him. It is interesting to me, though, that they did run that restructure, and maybe they were counting on the restructure and the proposal passing so they could try to sell at an extremely high price. But, you know, when you have a player of his caliber, we're talking about one of the great pass rushers of all time, not just of this generation, but of all time. I mean, he's got the sacks record and the single season and all that. Then you have to investigate that. And also, you know, from a financial perspective, the Browns, they gave him that deal last year, about a $20 million signing bonus that went straight to Garrett from the Browns. So they're handling a lot of the contract, making a potential acquisition for another team financially palatable. It's about the draft capital that you would want to expend for him on this side of 30 now, which would be trickier. But if there's a guy that you'd make an exception for, this is what he's built like. Myles Garrett's one of the greats to ever rush the passer.
David, there's also been rumors now for a couple seasons about the potential pairing of the Bosa brothers on the defensive line. Now, some of those rumors might be coming straight from the Bosa household, as Miss Bosa was tweeting out photos of the two of them in 49er uniforms. John Lynch was asked about that at the owners' meetings, and he said, I know Mama Bosa would love that, but I don't know if we can afford him. So where are we currently at this offseason with Joey Bosa, and does he fit into the salary cap situation with the 49ers?
Well, he currently doesn't, which is why they haven't signed him. I know that they're interested in adding Joey Bosa. They were interested last year. Now, last year, I would think the budget was even lower because that was the defensive renovation offseason. They wanted to make sure that they kept room for young guys and rookies to get their snaps. And, you know, the philosophy of the past two off seasons has been very different. And they needed last off season to set the table for this off season. It's like they had to take their salary cap medicine last off season. They had to get younger. Now they have the third youngest defense in the league, and I think now you're at the point where you can start building back up and using veterans to fill into some spots. And I mean, you look at the setup for the 49ers on defense, and I've got 7 or 8 guys right now that are 53-man roster guys on the defensive line, which isn't enough to build a 53-man roster. You need more. Plus, out of those guys, a lot of them, if you had a practice or a game today, wouldn't be able to play because they're still recovering from surgeries. That's Nick Bosa, Mykel Williams, Keon White, Alfred Collins, the defensive tackle, is a shoulder surgery. So you definitely need more juice, more talent along that defensive line. The question is, where is that price point for Joey Bosa? And I don't think that his price has necessarily lowered from last year when the 49ers were unwilling to meet it. He made somewhere between $12 and $15 million with the Buffalo Bills, and I'm pretty sure the 49ers weren't willing to go more than $10 million. So he did make the Pro Bowl last year. It was a bit of a resurgent season. He had 5 forced fumbles. He had 4 forced fumbles in the first 4 games of the season. I think he might have run out of juice toward the end of the year. So I would think that the smartest play would be to get Joey Bosa in there in a slightly reduced role. I don't think that he is in his prime anymore to where you can go pedal to the metal full season. And if that is the case, then he has to have a contract that's commensurate to that. And if another team is willing to pay well over $10 million, the 49ers definitely aren't eyeballing him for that type of role. They're eyeballing him for a role that would be under $10 million. So, you know, what might happen, though, you look at Joey Bosa, you look at Joel Bitonio. We're not sure if he's going to retire or not, the Brown, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, the guard, formerly of the Cleveland Browns. Look at both of those guys. If they don't sign by the draft, you never know what's going to happen in the draft. And, of course, the 49ers want to fill these holes in the draft, but stuff can go awry in the draft. You leave the draft, you don't have left guard, you don't have this defensive end position filled. All of a sudden, maybe it makes more financial sense for the 49ers to go after one of these veterans to fill in those positions. And, guys, they don't count against the compensatory pick formula if they're signed after the draft. So stay tuned here. If they stay free agents through April, you might see some action right after the draft in early May.
All right. Good answer and thorough, and obviously still more work to do on that D-line, and we shall see what the Niners strategize for sure. All right. Good stuff, David. Great connection, too. Really enjoyed the connection today. By the way, what's the coffee? Is that homemade or you got a spot?
No, it's a spot. I'm out in Nashville right now in the
Nashville.
off season, so they're there. It's
okay.
called Little Rad Market, and a nice little iced coffee. We're on a walk we're on a walk in the park here. So I guess every time you guys call, it's 5 bars of reception. I'll come back to this
Every
spot.
time you do a hit with us, you should do it from that park.
Yeah.
It's crystal clear, bro. All right, man. We
Perfect.
appreciate everybody can read David at the SF Standard or follow his YouTube channel, David Lombardi. So thanks, David, for hopping on. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks, David.